Before we dive into the show, if you're looking to make some picks on all your favorite sports this spring, you've got to check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You just choose higher or lower between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. If you click the link down below in the description and use our code RULE, that's RULE, RULE, you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. On today's episode of the Unwritten Rule, pack show for you guys. It's just Payton and I for this show, but we had a very special guest join us, Mari Neberieza. She's the head women's basketball coach over at Harper College in Illinois, and a big Mizzou fan, and gave us a excellent rundown, breakdown, gave us her top 3 candidates for the women's basketball role at Mizzou. Of course, Robin Pinchton stepping down, had a great conversation with her. She's got some connections to some of the coaching candidates and had a ton of info about Molly Miller, about a ton more lists, coaches on her list, and just coaches she's watching for that could probably be a good fit for Robin's replacement. So had an excellent breakdown, coach hot board, all sorts of names being discussed to fill the Mizzou women's basketball position. So don't miss that interview. Mari was a great guest, gave us a ton of good insight there. Was a lot more grim of a start to the show, is just Payton and I recapping, of course, the Vanderbilt loss on the men's basketball side for Mizzou. Tough loss for the Tigers in Nashville. Payton was had some good stuff about that, and why it hurt to them for their NCAA tournament seeding, SEC seeding, all that stuff. So had a good recap there, previewed Oklahoma, touched on that game as well, and then had some bracket talk in quick hits, just talked about where Mizzou's at and some bracketology stuff after losing to Vandy, how it affected them, and some other headlines as well. Ton of college basketball stuff, and a ton of NFL Combine stuff because all the Mizzou guys killed it. So we had some coverage of that as well in quick hits, and another shot at the Ken Sports Shorts. We didn't have Kenny. We did not go perfect. Kenny's still the king of Ken Sports Shorts, but a great show. Like I said, great interview with Mari talking women's basketball coaching candidates. Don't want to miss it. And the Vanderbilt recap, of course, as well. So dive right into it. Without further ado, the Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, March 3rd, and it was not the start to the greatest month in the wide world of college basketball that Peyton or myself would have wanted. Missouri losing to Vanderbilt 97-93. A gut punch, to say the least. Peyton in Nashville, Tennessee, two teams. This is the second time they've played each other. Of course, Missouri won back in Columbia. I think in February or in January. It was early on in SEC play, and they played the rematch. Vanderbilt wins, went to overtime, and it frankly shouldn't have done for Missouri, because this was a game they let slip away late in the second half, and it ends up going to overtime. Peyton, you're pretty fired up about this one. This is certainly a gut punch, obviously. You know, and I think you said this later on when we talked to Mari, and the bulk of the show will be about the women's basketball coaching search, which I think for Peyton and I's mental health is probably for the best, quite frankly. But Peyton, I think you described it, or you talked about this game with her, and just it's a game you're glad you lose now in March versus losing a game like this in the tournament. But what is just your reaction to this and the end in particular, how Mizzou kind of let this one slip? And it is a painful one with 2 games left in SEC play here.
Yeah, it was as disastrous as a loss can be that's not in the NCAA tournament, because it did not end their season, obviously, but it ended a lot of things. It probably ended a lot of things that you were hoping they could achieve this season. I think you're probably no longer in a good position to maybe get a 3 seed. The double bye now, after controlling your own destiny, you're now rooting for Probably Alabama is the most likely one. You got to have Alabama or Florida lose out, and those are two top 8 teams or so.
They play each other.
Yeah, they do play each other, so they'll have a chance. And Missouri obviously has to win out as well. Just an all-around horrible, horrible disaster of an ending in a game they absolutely had no right to blow until the last 9 seconds. It was a really quality basketball game. Vanderbilt had a rough start. Did not play well in the first half offensively, although I will say they had a lot of open looks. They just weren't hitting them. I think they shot like 2 of 13 from deep in the first half, something like that. 1 for 13, so even worse. And, early on, Caleb Grill goes on an absolute heater out of the gate. You're thinking maybe this is one where Missouri just kind of goes out and lays the hammer down. And that kind of is what I was starting to think too. And it just did not turn out that way. In the second half, Vanderbilt just kind of took it to Missouri. Missouri was not making shots. Caleb Grill, another really rough half from beyond the really rough second half from beyond the arc. He went 0 for 4. He did go 4 for 4 from the line, made a couple of 2-pointers. I think they were both like really nice cuts to the basket. But the game started to slip away. Vanderbilt kind of briefly would go out on these 1 to 3 point leads, I believe. And going into the under 4, I really did not think Missouri was going to pull this one out, but Anthony Robinson, he took this game over for a few minutes. I think he had it doesn't, let me find the stats here. He had at least 2 or 3 steals in the final 4 minutes when Missouri just was not buying stops. It led to he had 3 steals on the game. It would not shock me if all of those were in the last 4 minutes. Him and Mark Mitchell had a few really tough buckets, and in particular had some ridiculous 3-pointers in this one. He went 3 for 3, and I think every one of them was difficult.
And
Missouri goes
the steal thing, by the way. It was his first one was with 8:09 left, and then he had 2 more before the 3-minute mark.
And they were critical. That's how Missouri likes to play. We've talked about it all year. Missouri had 17 points off turnovers in this one. But man, they go up 6 with 1:30 to go, and they just could not have. It really felt like they were doing just enough to keep Vanderbilt at bay up until that last possession where Hoggard for Vanderbilt just kind of drives, kind of loses Ant Robinson. Trent Pierce loses his man. Rest is history. Nichols 3-pointer, the second that went in, the game was over. You could see in the body language between these two teams, Missouri had no interest in playing that overtime. Absolutely none. I know it was only a 4-point loss in overtime. It was not that close. There was never a prayer that they were going to win that game after Nickel made his 3. I get it. You'd rather lose now than the tournament. Than the NCAA tournament. They got time to fix the defense, which has become a really alarming problem over the last couple of weeks. It's been a really, I'll just say, flat out terrible unit. And they just too many bad performances across the board. And it probably has just cost them, in my mind, a chance at a protected seed and probably cost them a double bye. And that is a really tough thing to swallow.
Very tough pill to swallow. For you with the defense stuff, kind of talking, I guess, more big picture, because you're right. There's some good performances in here. Anthony Robinson, 16 points on 5 made field goals. He was 3 of 3 from 3 in this game too, and the 3 steals he had in the second half. Tamar had a decent game. Mark Mitchell, 20 points, 12 for 15 from the line. It's really good for him. Caleb Grill hit all his free throws. Had 28. Was this the first game he scored over 15 and they lost? Did that trend finally get bucked? It
yeah, because I don't remember how many he had against Arkansas, but yeah.
But that gets negated, like you said, by some kind of late game slip ups. We talked with Mari about the foul up 3 thing, and you can give your take on that as well. But the big picture thing that I want to ask, you said with this defense, I mean, what have you noticed that has gone wrong, and like what needs to be fixed in terms of whether maybe is it a personnel change, a scheme thing? What aren't you liking about this defense right now that's going to hurt them in a game like this in a tournament situation?
I don't really like just too much watching, like, and almost like it's almost some guys over rotate. Like, right before Nickel made his game tying 3, Edwards nailed a 3 that Caleb Grill like really gambled for a steal on with like 20 seconds. Just stand there and guard, man. Like, you can't give up a 3 in that scenario. And Caleb Grill wound up crashing and burning, had to try and guard Edwards from the side. He wasn't even in front of him. So there's that. There's a little too much watching when guards in particular are just getting penetration into the paint. There's too much watching from the perimeter, I feel like. Trent Pierce got caught watching on the 3-pointer that wound up, well, not watching per se. Well, he did, because Hoggard dribbled into the lane for whatever reason.
Hoggard.
Hoggard, whatever. Who cares? He ruined Mizzou. Pierce just felt the need to, for whatever reason, to help on the 2-pointer that did not matter. Left Nickel wide open for 3. I mean, it was just such a breakdown. And Pierce, it's been great. Like, at times this year, he's showed a lot more growth. But the last few weeks, not even just the 2 weeks, I mean, just the last few weeks in general, I mean, the shot hasn't fallen for him. And I mean, I'll be honest, I thought he was the worst player in the game by a country mile yesterday. I mean, the plus minus kind of tells the story. I know. I believe he was
minus 21.
A team worst, minus 21 by a mile. The team worst. Tony Perkins being a minus 11 with 0 points doesn't help either. Tamar minus 12 with 16 surprises me, but just Trent Pierce was, I mean, he was simply, he sank Mizzou yesterday. I don't really have another way to put it. He was just totally, he lost his man on the 3-pointer. Vanderbilt was totally going after him in overtime. I think the first 3 buckets were on him. I don't think you can start him next game. I am going to just go ahead and flat out say I think you need a personnel change there. Dennis tried to it almost seemed like okay, let's see if we can get him out of his own head a bit, and like used him on the defensive side of the ball, like down the stretch. I don't, and it wound up burning them. I don't think Trent Pierce can start next game. I think until he's kind of getting more right, at least getting his shots to fall. Again, I think you probably got to cut into his minutes a bit. Who do you do that with? I don't really know.
Who starts then?
Yeah, Cruz probably would get the start, but I mean, Cruz wasn't very good in the game yesterday either. Marcus Allen, I just don't think is entirely ready for that kind of role. Maybe you play a bit smaller, but they got to change some things up. I mean, the defense has become a huge problem. You can't be losing games in which you score 93 or last week against Arkansas 85. It needs to be fixed rather quickly. I think a lot of it is just kind of just not like they got to just be stronger on the perimeter. There's too many guys just getting through too easily. And I think Trent Pierce needs a minutes reduction right now.
That is risk you run. And I mean, to me, like with this game, Vanderbilt is another team that defends very similar to Mizzou. And I think that's a point that I think is worth making. I mean, Missouri had 13 turnovers, which, they've been a lot worse in that category in some games, but they had 13 turnovers. Vanderbilt turned those into 24 points. The only team better than Missouri in the SEC at getting points off turnovers is Vanderbilt. I mean, that's kind of their lifeblood defensively. So that's like a worthwhile thing pointing to. But when it's two similar styles like that, especially styles that it is kind of an all or nothing thing defensively, like these are the scores you're going to get in a game like this. But I think you're right. There sort of has to be a balance a little bit with some of the overhelping and the overcommitting to try and get steals, when it's not rattling a team like like it should be. You got to be able to switch things up. And normally Dennis can. I mean, we see some of the zone stuff. I don't know. Was there not enough of that? Maybe played against
There was too
Vanderbilt.
much zone yesterday. I'll be
Okay, so it was
honest.
the
I
opposite.
thought there was too much of it. Then Pierce was kind of getting burned a lot of the time in it.
So it was more just go straight man to man, let's stand them up and guard them and just force a couple longer possessions. That is probably, what kind of becomes the difference. But yeah, it's a frustrating one for sure. We're going to talk some bracket stuff in quick hits. Sucks to buck the Caleb Grill trend too. I mean, is there anything positive you can glean, or is it all just, at the very least, what you got to fix? I mean, in the end, it is only a 4-point loss. Vanderbilt is a tournament team. That doesn't change any of how frustrating it is from a, seed standpoint and from what this game meant standpoint.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can glean?
I mean, I thought
this is hell for him. By the way. I got to force him to find a silver lining.
The offense, I mean, was fine. I mean, Tony Perkins putting up a goose egg, Trent Pierce only putting up 3, and that's not great. But I mean, Mark Mitchell, the 5 turnovers were pretty sloppy. But I mean, 20 points, 80% from the line, especially as often as Missouri gets to the line, is elite. I know people are going to keep talking about it because of the percentage, and I know I'm probably wasting my breath. I really don't think free throws are an issue. Free throws have never once really been a reason they've lost a game. I don't think they ever will be. They get to the line so much that, yeah, of course, they're going to have a lot of misses, but at the end of the day, they get there. It's not like free throw shooting to me is not like shooting from the field. You can be a little less efficient if you're getting to the line as much as they do, if that makes sense. Because inefficient shots from the field, those can be like bad shots, like deep threes or deep twos. Free throw lines are all from a high percentage area. So getting to the line at a high volume in general is just going to work out better for you. If you miss a few along the way, I don't really care. I really don't care about the free throw shooting. I think the biggest weakness for this team right now is defense.
I would have liked to see in a game like this them win the rebounding battle. I mean,
they were getting totally. That was honestly the fact that it was only what it was, 28-39, is kind of a miracle, because before Josh Gray was in the game, and even for the first few minutes, he wound up having a good game, I thought, but his first few minutes were not great. Vandy had 18 offensive rebounds. I think legitimately 10 or 11 of those were in the first 10 minutes. It was the only thing keeping them alive.
And actually only
14 in the first half.
Only 12 second chance points off of those, which isn't actually a lot considering how many O boards that is, because that is a lot of offensive rebounds. I mean, they're not an elite rebounding team from what I understand. I feel like that's a game Missouri, that can be a separator again when it's two teams that are pretty similar. So I don't love that. You're losing the rebounding battle in a game against a team that's, if you win it, it can kind of be the difference between you winning and losing. I mean, yeah, Missouri's not better. Vanderbilt's 11th in the SEC in rebounding. Missouri's 14th, which isn't great, but I think this should have been a game you got on the offensive glass a little bit better, or at least held them off the offensive glass. Maybe we're nitpicking now, but that's probably one I would have liked to have seen them win the rebounding battle at. We're going to talk about bracket stuff, I think, in quick hits a little bit more, but obviously big picture stuff, like Payton said, this kind of puts a little ding in the not a little ding. It puts a ding in Missouri's chances to get a top 4 seed in the SEC, and probably be above that, beyond that 3 line, or potentially put yourself in a place to be on that 3 line. They're 10-6. They are technically in 5th right now. Tennessee beat Alabama, so they're a game ahead of them in 5th, and obviously they have the tiebreaker as well. Missouri plays Oklahoma next. It's on Wednesday, another rematch game. Wednesday at 7 in Oklahoma, of course. It's on SEC Network Plus, actually. So you got to stream this one. That's a little bit harsh for an SEC game in March. But Payton, another rematch here. Oklahoma, another team. They are far off what Vanderbilt is. I think that's pretty obvious. They are 4-12 in conference play. Believe it or not, they're still on the bubble, which is, it just kind of speaks to the SEC here. But Missouri dominated this game the first time they played, 82-58. Are you expecting a similar level of dominance on the road here?
Yeah, I don't really even care to break this game down too much. Oklahoma's a bad team. Missouri is supposedly not. Mark Mitchell had like the best game of his life against Oklahoma. I expect a similar thing. Oklahoma has absolutely nobody that can guard him. Just get the ball to Mark Mitchell, get out of Norman with a win. I don't care how it looks. This is just a complete waste of time game to me. Quite frankly, maybe it'll look bad if Missouri goes out and loses. If Missouri goes out and loses to Oklahoma, I don't even care to really litigate the rest of the season. The season will be over at that point. If Missouri is going to do anything in March, they'll go out and win this game handily. So that's just kind of the bottom line.
Tell him how you really feel, Payton. Well done. Payton was crashing out in the group chat yesterday. I'm just gonna tell it like it is, Payton. I mean, and rightfully so. I mean,
the end of we didn't even discuss it really. We probably should talk about it quick. I mean, the end of the game was just such, and Dennis Gates admitted it. He screwed it up. I mean, at worst, like he said, like he should have called the timeout, at least to set up his defense. He didn't do that after the free throws. At the very least, he should have called a timeout when Vanderbilt made the three, so they could have set up a better shot than just a heave. I didn't like that Dennis Gates didn't use the timeout when Mark Mitchell got trapped with I think it was 40 seconds left. Mark Mitchell got trapped on the baseline, or not the baseline, just the sideline. You have 2 timeouts there. You can't turn it over there. You got to call the timeout. They still, even in spite of all that, had a chance. We talked to Maria about it a little bit. I am such a pro foul up 3. I trust this team ball security wise. I think they have smart inbounders, smart inbound plays, good enough good free throw shooters to where I trust them to get the ball in after fouling up 3. And worst case scenario, Vanderbilt has to come down the court with about, let's say, 5 seconds left and chuck up a low percentage shot. They had no timeouts left. So it was a total debacle of a game. It really kind of ruined everything they kind of had in the palm of their hand, in my opinion. They have a chance if enough chaos breaks their way, and they win these last 2 games, to kind of get some of that back. You know, a double bye is not out of the question. They could still get at least a 4 seed, but it was just a very disappointing ending in a game that they had no right to lose.
Well said. There you go. We got it out of him eventually, everybody. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Oklahoma. This is a pretty straightforward one from a scheme standpoint. Feed Mark Mitchell. You should have success. Jeremiah Fears will remind people again, he's a very good player. But you know,
they didn't do that the first time against Missouri.
Yeah, they did not. They were not really able to unleash him. Then Jalen Moore can score. I think he's past Fears actually for their leading scorer. But yeah, I mean they're a good enough team, but Missouri should go out and be able to win this game. So frustrating for Vanderbilt, and how that result goes, or how that result went. But we'll see if they can generate a response and then build some momentum before, you know, what is another quad 1 opportunity against Kentucky to close the season. See how that can help any tournament things. And yeah, I guess, you know, rooting for chaos a little bit now, which is disappointing. I'm in agreement there, but we'll have to see how it shakes out. No easy way to transition off of that, but we do have a great conversation to talk about. We talked with Mari, had a great discussion about the Mizzou women's basketball hot board. Talked about a ton of candidates. It's the best breakdown you're going to get. Let's just be honest there, Payton. You know, she had a ton of good info about a ton of the women's basketball candidates. So, put this out of your brains with that interview and enjoy that. And yeah, we'll kick it to ourselves talking with Mari.
And now for something completely different.
Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest, Payton. It's been a long time since we've had a guest on the show. It's very refreshing to hear. I'm sure it'll be very refreshing to the people to hear someone else's voice besides you, mine, and Kenny's. But welcome on a very, very special guest. It is Mari Neberieza. She's the head coach at Harper College over in Illinois. We're bringing her on. We're going to ask her about her own team, but she's also, as you can tell if you're watching on the YouTube, she's got plenty of the Mizzou merch on. We promised a coaching hot board for Mizzou women's basketball, and we're delivering on that promise. And Mari is going to help us. This is maybe, Mari, I was saying to Kenny and Payton before we hopped on, I think you've maybe done the most research for any guest we've ever had on the show pre-show. So we appreciate that first and foremost. And thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. As a basketball coach, the scouting report is one of the most important things you do. So I got to do my research and I got to be ready.
Yeah, we're getting the scout for sure. And there's a lot of candidates to go over, which is obviously really fun. I want to ask you first though, just about, your own coaching career, at least right now. And I know you obviously graduated from Mizzou like the three of us have. And I know you're over at Harper now. It was your guys' first season at the D3 level in the NCAA, and I know it was a tough year at times for y'all. But just what'd you kind of learn in your first season at that level, coaching Harper, and what are you looking forward to maybe for next year here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a coach for about 15 years now. 2009 was my first season. I've been all over the place: high school, college. Yes, Harper just went to the Division II level in JUCO, which means we now have scholarships, which is really cool. So then being able to go out and get some talent outside of the district. When I took the job in July, we had one player, so I had to quickly build a team. I brought a couple of former players with me, but we went and got some softball players and some soccer players, and we went after it. And it was tough record wise, but the young women we have, they got better. We were competitive in a lot of our games in the region, and outside of California, our region in JUCO is one of the hardest. You could fight me on that. I played in it, so that's probably why I feel that way. But yeah, it was a good first year. I think we had some good momentum. We got a couple of good recruits coming in, and I'm still out there. I got visits this week. The grind never stops. So I'm really looking forward to our second season, and I really think we can make some noise next year.
Yeah, exciting stuff. So you were literally it's the video of Coach Cal, right, when he took over at Arkansas, where he's like, we talked to the team, there is no team, and had to just build it from scratch. I saw you guys. How did it feel? I'm sure you ended on a win too, as well. I saw that. I'm sure that showed a lot of fight and yeah, hitting the recruiting trail. That grind is busy. How is it recruiting at that level? I mean, just in terms of dealing with visits and like building a program and just what is that kind of recruiting space like? Because obviously I think most people know it at the highest college level, but how is it for you as a coach going out and trying to build your program that way?
Yeah, I tend to not talk to athletes until their senior year, usually the summer before, because most of them are not looking at the junior college level. And it's a grind. You really just try to identify kids that you want to put in your program and just try to build relationships as the season goes on. It's never really quick. You're not going to get a recruit to say yes quickly. They always have those D1 and D2 dreams. So right now is actually one of my busier times because the high school season just ended and these kids are looking for a place to go. So just being patient and trying to build relationships with the young women so that they know this is somewhere where they're wanted and where they can advance their career. I think junior college recently has gotten a better reputation just by people coming out with football and all of that. And I think the stigma attached to it will start to loosen a little bit. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think one of my strengths is building relationships and being able to talk to young adults like that. So hopefully it'll pay off. Like I said, we got a couple already in our class and hoping to add some more this week.
Yeah. There you go. I'm excited. We are a Harper College podcast as much as we are a Mizzou podcast. We'll be following, but obviously, that is also why we had you on. We got to talk about the world of Mizzou women's basketball, which is going to be a busy one, going through their own coaching search, of course, this offseason. We talked about it last show. Go listen to that if you haven't. Robin Pinchton is stepping down at the end of this season. Kind of felt like a writing on the wall thing all year. We can start to, Mizzou played just today against Vanderbilt, ended the regular season, lost 100-59. Mari, I guess and Payton, obviously, feel free to chime in here too. But Mari, just what's been I guess your take on this season now, knowing, Robin stepping down. I mean, just how much of it is like going back to the drawing board, and just, I guess, yeah, your overall take on this year with it, knowing, I feel like we've all kind of known for a while this was probably coming. Now we know officially, just what's been your take on this year for Mizzou, and looking ahead now finally toward getting a new coach, getting someone new in there.
For sure. And I think this goes across the board with anyone that you'll talk to, that everybody loves Robin. I think she's done great things for the program in the community. I know, so I have a college roommate that coaches basketball in Jeff City, and I know what she does for the youth around Columbia. And, she's had some great teams. They've been fun to watch. She's done some great recruiting and closed the borders in the state of Missouri quite a bit. But that being said, I think with the way that it's going with NIL and everything else that's changing, I think it's just time for a new face and a fresh face to lead the program. I think with DRF leaving last year, that it kind of left a void where we thought maybe that she would be gone, and now she's back. And, she had a decent recruiting class coming in, but it was just, I felt like there was a cloud over this team a little bit. And I think they fought pretty hard. I think there's only a couple games like today where it seemed like it was completely out of reach. But for the most part, all the games that I've watched, and I've watched most of them, they've been in it for 3 quarters, and then they kind of just lose their footing, where I think they have talent. And I think Payton said this last week, they have talent, but I just don't think they have the closing power in the SEC to be able to close these games and get these wins. So I don't think the program is necessarily in a really bad place. I just think it needs some new energy and some new life into it to try to push it to that next level.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think she put it best there. I mean, there are some talented players on this team. I really think Shrek is a SEC caliber player. I think Judd can play at this level. Slaughter has really flashed a lot this year. I don't think they have quite the depth. And like Mari said, there was a cloud over this season because, I mean, everybody in the world knew Robin Pinchton was probably gone this year, barring like a really fantastic season. That obviously didn't come to pass. Hard to recruit when you're kind of under that shadow. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really think that just new energy is kind of needed, just a new direction. I know a lot of people have asked, like, well, why would anyone come to coach Missouri, like, in women's basketball right now, given kind of the way the program was maybe treated the last 2 years? I'd still say it's an SEC job that, I mean, you look at what the men's side, what's happened on the men's side. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were questioning how good of a job that was just a few years ago when Dennis Gates took it. Dennis Gates takes it, and we've seen a remarkable turnaround. I think Missouri is probably similarly capable of that if they get the right hire on the women's side as well.
And I do think they're going to open the book a little bit. Robin had, I think, a base of $400K, and, recent contracts in the SEC. Kenny Brooks got 5 years, 7.5, I think. And Kim Caldwell was 5 years, 3.5 around then. So I think we're going to open it a little bit. Those are the 2 most recent contracts. And I think, they might get it up to $1 million or something. I really do think, that Leach will do that and kind of open the book up a little bit just to get us somebody quality.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm that is definitely a big thing, is like how much you got to invest a little bit more into the program. That's kind of starts with getting that coach through the door and just kind of building that, like Payton said, kind of with Dennis. So let's open the book. I mean, I think that's where we get into the fun of this. Like, let's talk some candidates. Mara sent us her own kind of short list with a bunch of notes. The name, I think everyone, we got to start with is Molly Miller. The name that's been linked for a while. Payton, of course, covered women's basketball for the Columbia Missourian 2 years ago. And I feel like even then I was hearing, things about Molly Miller, and he was, kind of looking her up as like a possible candidate. Everyone kind of knows who she is, Mari, but what do people really need to know about her style, her connections to Mizzou? What makes her, at least hypothetically, and there's a lot of names on this list that we'll go over, but what makes her on paper kind of the fit, this quote unquote, at least in the fans' eyes, maybe the lead candidate or someone at least has been linked for a while?
For sure. I think people understand that she's a true daughter, even if she didn't go to Missouri. She's a kickable high school grad, and she played at Drury University in Springfield. It's a Division II. She's in their Hall of Fame. She coached there for a long time. Her assistant coach, Amy Egan, who's at Lindenwood, is a friend. And so I've been following Drury for a long time, and she just wins. She has been a proven winner everywhere she's gone. And I think making that jump to the D1 was important to her. But unfortunately, with COVID, they were number one in the country when COVID hit, and they didn't play in the tournament. I really think Drury had a chance to win a national championship that year. And she used that to kind of get this job at Grand Canyon. And all she's done there is win. They just clinched the conference championship, I think yesterday. And she's put a school on the map that really hasn't been anywhere. It's a newer school. I believe they beat Arizona and Arizona State this year, which is crazy to think about. She runs a denial pressure defense, and I will admit I have stolen things from her quite a few times, but it is a fast-paced pressure defense that wants to create turnovers to get on offense. And I think it's one that would fit in the SEC. It's very similar to some of the things that Dawn runs at South Carolina. But I think a coach like her, where she's had to adapt to the level that she's at, the players that she has, to be able to go out and recruit, but also get these kids and develop them from Missouri. And I think we have a pretty good lock on getting kids from Missouri, at least the better ones. But we need to develop them. Even Robin, the one recruit that they have that's still signed, and I actually ran into her not too long ago, watched her play. She plays at Montini Catholic up here in Chicago. And from what it seems, she's going to stay. We'll see. She's a shooter, but she needs some work. She's a killer of a kid. She scores a lot. But kids like that out of Illinois and Missouri are so important to Mizzou and to being able to get to that point in the SEC where then we can get the big recruits. So I think Molly Miller really has that developmental mind to her, as well as having a defense that pretty much anybody can get into and they can be successful in order to build that.
Yeah, I mean, and pretty much you look anywhere, just on social media, just message boards, this is the one that always comes up, and it's not hard to see why. I mean, like Mari said, all Molly Miller has done is win. She's won 18 or more games every year at Grand Canyon. And I believe her first season was probably at least partially impacted by COVID because it was 2020, 2021. And she still went 18-7. I mean, this year they've cranked it up to a new level. They're 27-2, I think is what it was. And they're 14-0 in conference. So they've won 25 games in a row. So this is the easy one. Knowlton, you kind of alluded to it too. When I was on the beat, I had to, just because the season, again, Missouri, when I covered, it was 2022, 2023. Missouri went back to the NIT in women's basketball. There was some talk that maybe they'd make a move. So I had to do a little research on some candidates. Molly Miller was one of two that stood out right away. We'll probably discuss the other one, I'm sure. But Molly Miller has, like you said, Knowlton, kind of been on the radar for a few years now.
Yeah, she sounds like, especially with the defense stuff, in terms of, like Mari, you said, people kind of getting it quickly. It seems like there's a little bit of a balance there where, like, she can kind of impose her style right away, but from a program building standpoint, she's got that piece to it too with the recruiting. So yeah, definitely will be interesting to see how they kind of pursue. And Mari, I'll throw it to you. I mean, who else? You sent us a bunch of names on your short list. Who else do you want to, spotlight from there? I mean, kind of, I'll let you take the reins, I guess. But there's a lot of really intriguing names in this, especially from the mid-major level, which is obviously, where they'd be pulling Molly Miller from.
Yeah, for sure. And I love mid-major coaches personally, but that's just, maybe that's a junior college coach in me. I'm going to mess her name up.
I'm the same way.
So the Fairfield coach, which is, we talked about this, Carly, was it Thibault
Dudanis?
Yes,
yeah.
I knew I would. She's definitely been on my radar as a coach that I kind of pay attention to. She is the head coach at Fairfield University. She has rich history as a basketball family. Her dad, Mike, won a WNBA championship with the Washington Mystics. And then her brother took over for him. So they both are in the WNBA. Her husband is a former Division III coach, and he's on the bench with her. So the pedigree is definitely there. She has coached at many majors: Florida State, Eastern Michigan, Mississippi State, Minnesota. Got the job in 2022 at Fairfield. She's gone 67-20 and has won 2 straight conference championships. They're ranked 25th, I think, last week. I don't know if that's going to go up this week because they just won conference, but they play also the same type of fast-paced, up-tempo defense that Molly Miller runs, but they have this thing called the Roadrunner, which I think is so cool. And her husband Blake came up with this, and it's a post player that is very versatile and runs the floor. I think someone like my brain is Ashton Judd. Ashton Judd would love that position. To just be able to go out and be a rim runner, right? And who can guard 1 through 5. That's what a road runner is. They're a very versatile post. And yes, in the SEC, you need to have some height and some strength, but this is something that could possibly really help them to get good fast, is to go out and get someone who can run the floor like that and shoot threes. She also runs a lot of pro style offensive concepts that she gets from her dad and her brother, and they're predominantly a shooting team. So basically they would get out and run in transition, but also they want to hit threes. So in that pro style WNBA, NBA style, where lots of threes, lots of layups. And I think if you can go out and get a couple shooters and add to the ones that we already have and get some kids that can run, you can turn this around quickly. And I think she'd be a great fit for what we're trying to do.
Hey, I mean, that appeals to me, that pro style offense of 3s and 2s. I do not I've never been a big mid-range jumper guy, unless it's even just in the men's basketball realm. I mean, when I see anyone that's not Tamar Bates do it, I almost cringe a little. But also, I believe maybe you could speak on this a bit, Mari, but obviously Fairfield's a different part of the country, so you're probably not bumping into a whole ton. But I believe I've heard a lot of people rave about her recruiting as well. I could be wrong on that. Maybe that has a lot to do with, like you said, being in such a accomplished basketball family, being able to sell that. But I believe I've heard quite a bit about her recruiting as well.
So I think at Mississippi State, she was very integral in that recruiting process. And I know when she went up to Minnesota, it was kind of at the end of the tenure of a Hall of Fame basketball player we all know. But when there was a little bit of turmoil up in Minnesota, I know she took over as an interim as well. So between already recruiting in the SEC at a program like Mississippi State, that, it's not the Blue Bloods, it's not the LSUs and the South Carolinas, but Mississippi State has been a good women's basketball program for the last 10 years. And they've had a lot of good coaches go through there. So to have that, that to hang on your hat as well. And to do what she's doing at Fairfield, she's had to recruit a couple, and she's been there. This is year 3. So she's got 2 years of recruits in there. So definitely think that she can recruit. I don't know if she's the best recruiter on my list, but she's up there.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by her as well with the threes and layups, the efficiency. We talk so much nowadays about offensive efficiency and numbers and all that stuff, and she seems like she gets that. I want to ask about one of the former coaches you had on the short list that you sent. And it was Kelly Harper from Tennessee, or I guess formerly of Tennessee. So, I saw, just looking at her background, she was fired. She made 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances, and I think a couple of those were to the Sweet 16. Was it just a case of it's Tennessee, they expect to be challenging for national championships, or what was it? Because it seems like she's pretty successful there as well. And is she someone who would you think? Obviously not knowing her person, but could she someone you could see maybe going back into that coaching realm, whether it's at the SEC level? Because it seemed like she was pretty successful.
She would be my second choice behind Molly Miller. I love what Kelly Harper does. I think she came in for Holly Warlick, who obviously took over for the legend that is Pat Summitt, right, and had a rough go. And I think she changed the culture of Tennessee back to kind of where it needed to be. She had a really hard time getting 5-star commits. This was right at the time when South Carolina was really gaining steam, and Mulkey went to LSU, and Mississippi State was good. And I think it was just hard for her to get those 5 stars. So she had to get a little lower recruits and kind of develop them. And I think she was super successful. I think she's a, Camila Cardoso banked in 3 away from winning an SEC championship. That was insane. Yeah. And they still made the tournament that year, and I'm pretty sure they won a game. So I think consistency wise that she's going to be a good coach in the SEC, but I think being at her alma mater with the pedigree and her coming in and kind of raising that floor again, that everyone thought that she was just immediately going to take them to a national championship because she was, Pat Summitt's point guard. And I think it was a little unfair for her, and it is what it is. And, Kim Caldwell's struggling a little bit right now too. And I just think it was very high expectations. I think she's a great coach though.
Yeah.
I think kind of raising the floor is also a good way to put it. I think Kelly Harper, just looking at kind of the list of candidates we got, maybe is probably the safest bet to do that. I mean, she's had 4 different head coaching stints at Western Carolina, NC State. Was she the one right before Westmore at NC State?
Yes, her and her husband. Yep.
Right. Yeah, and then Missouri State. So she's got familiarity with in-state recruiting as well. So definitely, and she's been linked a couple times by a few different people. So definitely a name that makes sense as well.
Yeah. Sorry, Mari, go ahead. Did you have another point on Kelly?
No, honestly, since the day we heard about Robin, if it's not Molly Miller, then that's who I would want. Just because she's proven, and I think she can recruit the state of Missouri, and has already proven that at Missouri State. Going to a Sweet 16 with a team like that is not easy to do.
You mentioned on your list, you included a couple of assistants at the Power 4 level currently. Who do you like from there that could maybe seem ready to take, go from that Power 4 assistant to that Power 4 head coach job?
And growing up in Chicago and coming from a family of Illinois fans, it's always hard to say this to Mizzou fans, but there's an assistant at Illinois. Her name is Calamity McIntyre, which is one of the greatest coaching names I think I've ever heard.
It could be unfortunate though, if like in a heartbreaking loss scenario, her first name at least, but it is a legendary name.
And she's been around for quite a while. She was a manager under Pat Summitt in the early 2000s. And she's coached in a lot of great places at Fresno State, Santa Barbara, Boise State, Arizona, Hawaii, Dayton, Texas, and she followed Shauna Green to Illinois. She is probably the best recruiter on my list. She's put 2 top classes in Illinois. They were the number 7 class in 2025, and they're getting a 5-star guard out of Chicago, which has never happened in the history of Illinois basketball. Have they ever gotten a 5-star guard out of Chicago on the women's side? That shocked me when I heard that.
That's wild.
And they also had a 5-star that last year. Her name is Barry Wallace, and she doesn't start, but she plays pretty regularly for Illinois. So they are going back-to-back years with 5-star commits at Illinois, which is just unheard of. And a fun fact about her that you guys will love, she is Reba McEntire's niece. So
that rocks.
But I mean, this is someone that I've heard of my whole coaching career as being a elite recruiter. Now, I don't know, culture-wise, she hasn't been a head coach, so that's always a question when you're hiring an assistant who hasn't had the big job, but sometimes you got to take a swing and trust that she's learned under, Pat Summitt, and I don't know who she was under at Texas. It might have been Karen Aston, we'll see, but she's learned under some pretty great names, and, sometimes you just have to take a swing at it.
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention, the staff she's on at Illinois, it's been like a remarkable turnaround there. A few years ago, it was almost like that game, like the bragging rights game for women's basketball was almost treated like a joke because Illinois was in such a bad state. But now in the last few years, they made the tournament for the first time since I'm scrolling through Wikipedia to find it, 2003. In under Shauna Green, and the last 2 years they've won 19. They look like they're headed back for the tournament this year. I believe they're 21-8. Yeah. So it's interesting we pivot from like Kelly Harper, who would be a big floor raiser, and this maybe the way you're making it sound, Mari. This could be like maybe one of the higher ceiling hires they could make.
For sure. And like I said, it's a swing. You don't really know how it's going to go. You can hit a home run or it'd be a double play. You don't really know, but it just depends on what Leach and the hiring committee want to do. If they want to hire a proven commodity, or if they want to go after somebody. Just like, I mean, I guess Shauna Green was at Dayton, so she was a head coach, but I'm struggling to think of another assistant, but sometimes these assistants hit.
Yeah.
So it's really just deciding.
Yeah, it's a matter of like, do you trust them to also, like you said, do that program building piece? Do they have enough of the tactical stuff that they've taken from who they've learned from? Obviously, Pat Summitt's probably as good as any to take some of that stuff, but can they install a lot of that at a Power 5 program after never doing it at all as a head coach? Who's another dark horse maybe candidate that you like on your list, or maybe another one that you don't see too often on a lot of the publicized ones that you could think maybe could work?
All right, so this one might be out of left field a little bit. I have a former player that plays there that I coached in AAU back when I lived down in Peoria, and that's Carrie Moore at Harvard. What she's done at Harvard has been pretty miraculous. As an Ivy League school, as you both know, they don't have athletic scholarships.
Right.
And being able to get athletes into that building, she's been there since 2022. She's 36-24. And she's had winning records, which again, there is a big thing. She is also a fantastic recruiter. She was at Creighton and North Carolina and Michigan. And every school that she was an assistant at, they went to the tournament. She pulled the number 10 class in 2019 for North Carolina and the number 3 in 2020. So she can recruit. That's not an issue. And I think her time at Harvard has shown that she's an elite player developer. Again, another defensive-minded coach that likes to mix up presses. She blitzes to light pressure and wants to keep teams guessing, which being able to change defenses like that is your best weapon when maybe you're a little undermanned or undersized to create offense. Now, again, she's only been there 3 years, but it is a D1 job, and they've played well. And the Ivy League has not been a joke recently. Columbia and Princeton have both been up, and it's definitely a dark horse, and it's a name that I like. And like I said, I'm a little biased just because I have somebody who plays there. I know somebody who plays there, but I think she would be a great hire as well.
She's just 39 years old too. So I mean, that would be, that's someone that, you're kind of, like you said, you're maybe taking a swing, like kind of trying to catch lightning in a bottle. The results have certainly been good. They're 21-4 this year, like you said. Not first in the Ivy because Columbia and Princeton have also been very good this year, but certainly seems like, just from the outside looking in, someone I would be intrigued by.
They beat Indiana at Assembly Hall this year.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Indiana is not a joke program either in women's basketball.
They are not.
That's a good program.
The mighty Harvard. That's awesome. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I remember, when I was going through and kind of just cross-checking, looking up lists, I didn't see her on too many, and that's so. You know what? If we're first here and we're first to the Carrie Moore train, it picks up steam. We'll know who to credit. But yeah, her accolades seem like they kind of speak for herself. And you obviously knowing someone who plays for her, clearly, she does a good job as a recruiter in terms of getting players there. And yeah, to do that, it is such a an understated thing of how hard it is to do in the Ivy League and to keep those players and bring them in when there is no scholarships. And it's, you've got the academic side of it. And so that makes those jobs a little bit more difficult to manage. So yeah, she's definitely one I definitely want to monitor. Any other names you want to hit on? I'm going to ask you at the end, just kind of to rank your maybe top 3, and then, we'll go forward from like following how they go from there, but other names to keep an eye on that you think Mizzou fans should know.
Yeah. And, to be a little bit of an Illinois homer, Kirsten Gillespie down at Illinois State. I know that's where they got Robin from, so they might be a little gun shy, but definitely someone that has raised the floor at Illinois State. I've had a lot of interactions with her over the years, having coaching high school and going to some of her camps, but she has a nose for the portal. It has done very well bringing in lower division players. She just brought in a player from Division III Millikan that has been a huge part of their program this year. She's a great shooter. And I know that's not the only one that she's done, but she definitely has done more with less and done really well recruiting the state of Illinois and going and getting kids in the state not necessarily from Chicago, but to have some success in the Valley. And it's definitely somebody that I think should get an interview, should get a shot. I don't know if she's quite ready yet, but definitely somebody I would root for and I'd be excited for to see do that. Elise Knudsen, I believe, is the name of the D3 transfer. She was at Milliken, and she's been playing well for ISU. But just being able to have a nose like that for the portal and recruiting, I think would be huge for what they're trying to do moving forward. And then just a couple other names to throw out. Beth Cunningham at Missouri State. They're going to win the Valley, the regular season title this year, and she's won 20 games in 3 seasons there every year. So she's been super successful, obviously an in-state program. So somebody they can get a good look at. And she was previously at VCU, which I know most people don't know a lot about unless they knew about Shaka and their Final Four run with the men, but VCU is a fairly decent women's program as well. Yeah. So she's done well in the state for sure. And then if we want to talk about our athletic director, Laird Veach hired Katrina Merriweather out of Cincinnati at Memphis at the time he was there. So that's another name that you can look out for just with the Veach connection.
Yeah.
And then one more, Charmin Smith at California. She's a St. Louis girl, went to Ladue. She played and coached in the WNBA, and Cal has been a habitual tournament team since she's been there. And that's a Power 4. I know the Pac-12 is no more, but to be able to play in the Pac-12 with the USCs and the UCLAs and the Oregons and still make the tournament is definitely something to be commended for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, that we covered a lot of them. I'm just going to throw a couple of names I thought of. I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, like Jack said, Mari put together a whole list for us, and it's pretty comprehensive.
I wanted all the names to be out there. I was like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
There's a ton of intriguing names.
Lindy LaRoque is one I feel like we kind of have to put out there. This would have made a lot more sense 2 years ago when Desiree was the one that hired her at UNLV. It has paid off in spades at UNLV. She's been great there. I'll throw out Jeff Mitty at Kansas State just because I've seen his name linked to the job. He's been very good at Kansas State, especially as of recently. I believe he's from Missouri. I believe he's a Missouri native. And just one more, I actually have an assistant under one of Mari's suggestions, and that's Jessica Keller. Almost nobody that's not a true diehard of Central Missouri women's basketball is going to know this name, I don't think. She was the head coach at Columbia College in Columbia, Missouri for a few years down there, so she knows recruiting the area. She then took an assistant coach job under Kristen Gillespie at Illinois State, recently left, and now she's the assistant coach at Nebraska. Nebraska has also been a very good, very, very solid program the last couple of years, so I just wanted to throw that one out there because it also just combines the 2 beats I covered in college. So
that would. And hey, Jessica is good people as well. I've had interactions with her as well as when she was at Illinois State. So I'd be definitely rooting for her too. That'd be great. And I got to throw Amy Egan out there too. I know she might not be ready as well. She's the head coach at Lindenwood right now, and they are absolutely killing it. They just got pushed. Their Division I status just got fast forwarded. Yep. So I think they don't have to do the last year of probation. And, I've known Amy Egan probably my whole coaching career. She took a kid from our state championship team to Truman State, and I've kind of followed her career from Truman State to Drury and then to Lindenwood. I don't think she's from Missouri, but she has definitely been a part of Missouri basketball for a long time now.
Yeah, the in-state ones are super intriguing. Also, yeah, good plug, Payton, to your former work there with another candidate. But yeah, those always intrigue me. And I'm glad we talked about Gillespie too. She was one I noted that when you'd put that in your notes, Mari, doing more with less. Like that's something that kind of excites me as like just from a program builder. Obviously at Missouri, you're not going to have less for hopefully that long, at least, given it's an SEC program. But like working the portal, knowing how to do that, bringing in. I mean, we see so many on the men's and women's side, like bringing in these mid-major transfers. There's these teams made up of these players who, might not have a lot of roster continuity, but just coaches that are good at finding, those players that work in their system and putting them all together and being able to assemble that squad in a year's time when they might lose a lot of people. I think that's definitely that's a trade I for sure value. So Gillespie's one I'm really keeping my eye on. So when you put it all together, I'll ask you this to rank them. Give me your top 3 right now, coaching, hot board that you'd want. If you were making the decisions, these would be the first 3 names you'd call as your top 3 candidates.
I would say open the checkbook for Molly Miller. If that's what you do and that's the only person you talk to, then I'm fine with it. I think she's more than proven herself to be ready and to be able to do this. And I would hope she cares about the state of Missouri. I mean, that's her home state. Number 2, I would go Kelly Harper. I think just to stabilize. And I think, like I said, she's won in the SEC. And she's proven that she can do it and that she can build a winner. And it might not be up to Tennessee standards, but definitely Missouri can take that and run and then maybe build on it. And maybe without that pressure of it being her alma mater, she might be able to be successful. Yeah. And then I'm going to go. Third one's a tough one. I definitely think I'm going to go with my girl at Harvard. I think I'm going to go Carrie Moore. And I think that would be a splash similar to maybe kind of a Drink thing, because Drink, the 1 year at App State, kind of a nerdy guy. I don't think Carrie's a nerdy guy, but working at Harvard and dealing with the education, maybe that's the swing they want to take. Yeah. But I definitely love what she's doing at Harvard. And, I tune into their games, and that's just not because I know somebody on the team. I enjoy the way they play basketball. So that would be my top 3.
Okay. Peyton, you have a modified one. Where would you go?
Yeah, I just want to say also, like, I like that Drink comp for Carrie Moore, because I mean, it's also like when Drink was hired, that was like an out of nowhere hire. Like, he wasn't on the initial expected list. He was just kind of like that young, unproven upstart guy that Missouri took a chance on. I mean, Carrie Moore is similar, like you said. I mean, hasn't coached super long at Harvard, but has done a great job. Young potential up and comer. I like that comp, but my top 3, Molly Miller is number 1 as well. I don't think there's even a really debate. Everyone in the world has linked her to this job. She's lost 10 games as her, like, that's the high watermark for losses for her in her coaching career. That's unbelievable at any level, especially as long as she's been coaching. So Molly Miller is number 1. I agree. If they talk to nobody else, so be it. Molly Miller, I think, has more than earned it. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty impressed by the Carly Thibault Dudanis brief we got from Mari. I like that pro style offense. I like kind of the basketball family pedigree. I think that's a very interesting thing to kind of look at. My only question would be, like, well, she's kind of in an area that's not linked to Missouri at all, but like Mari said, she's recruited at the high major level before, so maybe that's not a big deal. My third one, I'm not going to say Jessica Keller, because that would be
bias in there.
Too much of a bias one. I mean, I've seen Jeff Mitty linked, like, getting a sitting high major head coach, especially like one that's coached a player like Ioka Lee, who was an absurd player at Kansas State, and Jeff Mitty has done an exceptional job there, especially in recent years. That's kind of too intriguing to pass up, I think, to not have in my top 3. So I'd go Miller, Thibault Dudanis, and Mitty as my top 3.
I think I'd have to join in with Miller. I think Harper is also my number 2. I'm super intrigued. I think that seems like just the success thing at Tennessee. They just have, I guess, a different standard, but it seems like she knows how to win, and I really like that. And I'll go Kristen Gillespie as my third choice. I really like her. I like the transfer portal stuff that Mari talked about, the roster building. That's really intriguing to me. I think that's, like, you see it on the men's side with Dennis, how he was able to, kind of assemble some rosters. And, like, I think if you can work the portal in this day and age, you can get players you want in, build that culture a lot quicker. You can embed your scheme a lot quicker when you know you have players that are balling in. So I'll probably go her as my third choice. So yeah, plenty of names to keep an eye on. And Mari, thank you for your hot board, because that was, again, that helped inform us, and I think helped inform the people too. Any final thoughts? We'll finish on a note talking about the men's game against Vanderbilt, but any other final thoughts just on this coaching search, where you think the program's headed? And I don't know, hopefully it's a case of one of these in a few years, whoever they hire heads off to the WNBA, and then Mari takes over and just runs Mizzou and turns them into a national championship program.
Man, I would hope that my career has that arc. I don't know if it does. Definitely would be a dream come true to coach at Mizzou, no doubt about it. But I think Missouri's in a great spot right now, because I really think of all the open jobs that will be, they're in the best spot, because the program is not in shambles by any means.
Mm-hmm.
There is some talent there. There is, there's some recruiting classes and some good players that I think they just need a refresh. So I think it's a quick turnaround. So anyone who takes this job, you're in the SEC, you get to play and coach in one of the premier leagues in the country. And you have a team that you can easily grab a couple transfers and go and compete in the SEC. And that I don't know if any other job that's going to be open is going to have that quick of a turnaround possible. So I really think that as long as, they make a good hire, that, we can raise that floor, and women's basketball can join football, men's basketball, gymnastics, volleyball, whoever else you want to add that are right now just killing it for Missouri. And I think the athletic department is in a great spot right now. It's in probably the best spot I've seen in the 20 years or so that I've been a fan, since my freshman year. And I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. Payton, any lingering thoughts from you?
Yeah, I don't really get why some people feel this isn't like a really like why some people are of the mindset of, oh, why would someone go to coach at this women's program? I don't see that kind of side of it. It's a like we've mentioned, an SEC program. There's not no money poured into it. Yes, the last 2 years, the situation with Princeton would maybe indicate that they don't care too much about it, but I don't see it that way. I really don't. I think Missouri is going to have its pick of the litter. I agree with Mari. I do really think that there's a good chance. I think that they're going to end up with a pretty decent hire out of this.
I completely agree. I think it's just a refresh thing. I think that was a perfect way to describe it, is just get someone in that can, turn the culture around quickly and use these resources, just kind of redirect them in the ways they need to be redirected to have a successful program. I don't think it's any insane rebuild that you're going to have to undergo, but we'll see who they hire. Hopefully it's one of these names on the short list. Then we can all look really smart, which would be great. Mari, before we let you go,
hopefully
we were talking
it's the first one on the list.
Hopefully it's the first one on the list. That actually, yeah, that's the good point. Mari, before we move on, your quick thoughts. We're obviously recording this on Sunday. Mizzou Vanderbilt on the men's side happened on Saturday. We talked about it to open the show, but we were doing some discussing, pregame. Tough loss. Your takeaway from the game, and how are concerned, not concerned, are you with this moving forward in terms of how Dennis and co will move on from this? But this was a tough pill to swallow here against Vandy.
I agree. It's a tough loss. It's hard to go to Vanderbilt and win a game. I've always thought that, but my concern isn't. Defense is easier to fix than offense in my mind, especially with the season I just had. So the fact that they're still scoring at a high clip, Dennis can fix the defense. It's about finding the right matchups and finding the right people to do it. There's a big Twitter debate about whether he should have called timeout, whether they should have fouled. And we can all say what we think. But no matter what Dennis said, the players have to go do it. So I think it's a good experience for them again to see this happen to them and break down what they need to do, because at the end of the day, when they get to the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to guard somebody up 3, and they're going to have to finish a game out. And the only way to do that is to have that experience. Now, if we had lost by, 10 points to Vanderbilt and the score was 70 to 60 or something along that line, I think I would be a little bit more worried. But us scoring in the 90s for the last couple of weeks, I'm not too concerned because I think Dennis can fix the defense, and I think they will.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Mari would know better than me on this, like about being able to kind of take away lessons from a game like this, especially the defense. Mari, I think, kind of hit it on the head. The defense the last couple of weeks has been really concerning to me. I mean, they've now lost games where they put up mid 80s and 90s. That's really rough, especially like. Certainly, this is the time to lose in March instead of later on. But man, in a game that had this much riding on it, a double bye in the SEC tournament, maybe being able to climb up to that 3 seed line is just a total, and especially just the way Vanderbilt tied it, just a total gut punch. It kind of just boils down to, like Mari said, the defense is just not in a good spot right now. They got time to fix it. They got a week. 2 more regular season games left, and then the SEC tournament, and then it's really go time. But it's just it was a really, really tough time to have a game like that slip away from you.
And one more thing just to add, I am so proud that Dennis Gates hasn't really talked about it, hasn't thrown anyone under the bus, hasn't done any of that like Cronin from UCLA or even Cal at Arkansas has done, where they have gone out publicly and called out players. I think the way that Dennis Gates has been handling himself in the program has been awesome. I don't think we've seen that at Missouri in a long time. I was having a conversation with my brothers that he might be the best coach we've had since Quinn Snyder. That's just my opinion. But I really do like how he's handled himself and the team in all of this, to not point fingers, but to do it together.
Yeah, if there's a coach that can generate a response and ignite that, and like you said, keep it internal, not add to anything that makes more drama than what it needs to be or whatever, it is definitely Dennis. So I agree with you there. We'll see how they respond, and we'll see who women's basketball ends up hiring. And yeah, hopefully it's Mari Miller.
I do want to ask, and Mari and I kind of went back and forth on this, like on Twitter. Mari, you would not have fouled up 3 there?
So this is what I would have done. I would have grabbed Caleb Grill during the free throws and told him to get on number 5. Don't let him catch the ball. If somebody sets a screen on you, blow the screen up, get the foul call, cool, put him on the line. But then we're going to make somebody else beat us is basically what I would do. I'm not a big proponent of fouling up 3. I just think there's too many ifs. So you foul up 3, right? They miss the second free throw and put in a putback because we don't box out and they get an offensive rebound, or they put both in and we're lazy getting the ball in on the press and they get a layup and win the game. Like, there's so many ifs to just give them points. And it's a fair argument both ways. I totally agree that, that is something that you can do. It's just not something that I like to do.
Okay. Mari made
totally
a good
fair.
case.
Yeah.
Mari
I mean,
made a good case
especially
for
Vanderbilt for so much of that game was brutalizing Missouri on O boards. Yeah. I mean, just over and over.
It's very fair to make it a circumstantial thing. That was a good argument from a coach on why you shouldn't foul up 3. And now I'm flipping my whole. I'm a pro foul up 3 guy, and now I'm like, oh, maybe I should be a pro foul up 3 guy.
I don't know. I trust Missouri enough to, like, especially just ball security. I really do trust them for the most part on getting the ball up the court cleanly. Maybe not if it goes to Mark Mitchell. He's kind of been at times a bit loose with it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how Mizzou responds. We'll see how, what Mizzou does with hiring their next coach. And Mari, thank you so much. This has been awesome. We will definitely have you back on, at some point in the future, maybe after the hire, and we'll get your take on it and dive into it. But I'm excited for the future of women's basketball. I'm excited we have an expert and a coach, someone who's a lot smarter than we are with ball knowing that can, help us out.
I appreciate you guys having me on. You're my listen driving to work on Mondays and Fridays. And, I appreciate what you guys are doing to get Missouri out there and have people talking about it. It's not something that's been around for a long time. So I appreciate it. And anytime.
Oh, you can't inflate our egos like that, Mari. That's too nice. Now we're gonna.
You just inflated mine and told me I was an expert, so I got to give it back.
It's a fair trade. Well, all right, thank you so much, Mari. We appreciate it. We'll have you back on soon. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. Kenny, after his emphatic performance on the Daily Dozen last time we had him, when I call him out and I said he can't get it by himself, he's not going to do well, went perfect and has now ditched us again and has forced us to do the Daily Dozen by ourselves. And we're probably going to do bad, and he's probably going to text us all the right answers here. I'm in hell with the Daily Dozen, Payton. This is going to be, we need to get perfect, or that's our only rebuttal is getting perfect, and we're not going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to get 3.
Yeah, we're gonna get miserable. I'm tired. I'm feeling sleepy. This is gonna be a rough go.
Yep. Let's just start off with a wrong answer, shall we? Celebrity mashup.
Let's do it.
Let's
All right,
do it.
celebrity mashup. Everyone knows how the Daily Dozen works by now.
Well, that's Bill Hader.
We got Bill Hader. Oh, and it's
I don't know who that is.
I know her. Oh my god, I know her, and I don't remember her name.
I have no idea who that is. Is it Anne Hathaway? Oh, whoops.
Yes, it is. That's right.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. It is. That's who I was. I couldn't remember her name, but I believe that is her and Bill Hader.
Bill Hader.
This has got to be right. Please.
Wow, we got one.
Start. Oh my
god.
God.
That's going to be the only time where I ever have guessed both of the celebrity mashup. Correctly.
I knew it was Anne Hathaway. I couldn't put her name. Wait. We got to do. Should we be strategic about this? Should we save sports? Oh no, you already clicked it.
Well, we're already on NFL, so we're going to do this. A third-round pick out of Florida. This Seahawks wide receiver totaled 6,400 receiving yards and caught 47 touchdown passes from 2000 to 2006. What is it, Jack? Mr. Seahawks?
Yeah, I am a Seahawks fan, but I'm also
you sure are
not old enough to remember who this could be. 6,400 is kind of a lot because that's 6 years in the NFL, and that's someone really good. That's someone like pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's a good amount of points.
Early 2000s out of Florida. It's not Harvin, is it? Percy Harvin?
No chance.
Because he's too young, but wasn't he on those good Florida teams?
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking it up right now because I want to see if you'll get it.
Oh, my God.
I'm not going to help you. I think I found who it is, and I don't think you know who it is.
Okay. It's just because I'm not old enough to know. This was before I was 5 years old in 2006. I'm not going to. Am I going to know?
Come on.
I would not have. Oh, Darrell Jackson. That's who it is.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Way to go, Jack.
Holy shit. I knew it.
Wow. All right. Let's go to music.
Music. Number one hit with over 2 billion Spotify streams. Which singer released 2021 song Good For You? We can get this one.
Olivia Rodrigo. There we go.
It. We're three for three.
Oh my God. We're three for three.
We've hit your 3 movies.
Oh man, if Kenny were here, he'd be all over this.
A spinoff of the 2003 Daredevil film. Jennifer Gardner had the lead role in this 2005 superhero movie.
I think Kenny's gonna yell at me so much if I don't get this. I think it's Punisher. But Jennifer Gardner wouldn't be the lead role, would she?
What's a spinoff of the Daredevil? Could that be a?
I'm
a spinoff isn't like another movie. A spinoff isn't a spinoff like a.
And I think I'm only guessing Punisher because there's a Punisher show and a Daredevil show. Kenny's going to be screaming at me. Kenny's going to hate that I don't know this. I'm just going to put the Punisher and move on.
Okay.
And that's not correct. So we're no longer in Kenny territory.
Damn.
Not that we were before because I cheated and gave Jack the answer on NFL. So what do we got for television, Knowlton?
One of these days, Alice, bang, zoom, straight to the moon was a famous quote catchphrase from this 1950 CBS sitcom starring Jackie Gleason and Audrey Meadows.
I have no idea, dude.
Not a clue. One of these days, Alice, bang, zoom, straight to the moon.
The Goldbergs.
Sure.
Wrong. Chain restaurants.
Chain restaurants. Promoted with cartoons like The Simpsons and Rocket Power, which fast food chain introduced Shake 'em Up fries in 2002?
What are Shake 'em Up fries?
We're too young again. But Kenny again will probably know somehow.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell wouldn't have fries. Hold on, we need to think about this. Taco Bell wouldn't have Shake 'em Up fries.
Yeah, the Goldbergs was a TV show that was on the air 60 years after what
we
they
knew
were
we
asked
weren't. We
for.
knew we weren't going to get that one, but we can maybe.
We're not going to get this one. I don't know what shake 'em up fries
Hold
are.
on. Let's just do some logic here. Shake 'em up fries. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with shake Wendy's. What about Wendy's?
Sure, Wendy's. I mean, this show's been going on for like a good hour and a half at this point. Wendy's, incorrect. Cars. The
Cars, the
Boxster.
Boxster and
I don't know what
the
I
Boxster and
don't know.
Cayman are mid-engine two-seater sports car models produced by this automobile brand. The Boxster. I've heard of the Boxster.
The Cayman.
Porsche Boxster, Porsche Cayman. Guess
That's
Porsche.
not it, but I'm gonna guess Porsche. Oh, it was. Jack Knowlton knows cars.
Boom, 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 boom.
All right,
do
we're
MLB.
going NBA.
Okay, NBA. What current day team previously played as the Cincinnati Royals from 1957 to 1972? You got it, Peyton.
Is it the Kings?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
Sacramento Kings. Should be.
Sacramento
Should be.
Kings. MLB. Ron
Bang.
Gardenhire won over 1,000 games as manager of this this American League team from 2002 to 2014. So he last managed the Tigers. I know that he retired with the Tigers. I believe this is going to be the Twins, though.
You got it. This is all
There we
you
go.
cheat.
We got it. So we answered 3 correct. We're not double dipping. Forget it. We don't know any of the other answers. Okay. Apparently 57% of people knew what chain restaurants were. Burger King had shake 'em up fries.
Oh, okay.
Movies. Electra. Okay. If Kenny says he's seen Electra, I'm calling him a liar. I don't believe that he has
All
seen
right.
that.
We have one we can hold him accountable for.
Television, The Honeymooners. I don't think he knows that one either. He might know the Burger King one, although I doubt that too. But he does not know those two.
Okay.
And with
All
that,
right.
we're moving on to quick hits.
We did a good job. We're already in quick hits. This is a part of quick hits.
Well, we're
Peyton.
moving on to
the proper
the
quick
real
hits.
quick hits.
We will do Tigers in the Wild first.
The-
Kenny's
the
Tiger in the
legacy
Wild.
quick hits.
Huh? Yeah. Kenny's Tiger in the Wild is going to Bruce Pearl, of course, the coach of the Auburn Tigers. Bruce Pearl tweeted VFL and War Damn Eagle. VFL, of course, stands for Vols for Life. That's because Tennessee beat Alabama, which for Auburn meant they now clinched the SEC regular season title in basketball by themselves. There's no chance that Alabama can
Which means
split.
I was correct about my regular season pick.
Good for you, Peyton. You knew Auburn would be good.
You didn't pick Auburn in either the tournament or regular season.
I didn't. It's okay. Who did I pick in the regular season? I don't remember.
I think you might have picked Florida.
Okay, that's not a dumb pick.
It was a pretty dumb pick.
All right, whatever. All right, I didn't foresee Auburn turning into 2023 UConn. I don't care. This is also dumb. I like Bruce Pearl coached at Tennessee, of course. So like I can excuse it a little bit with him. In my opinion, this is dumb. Auburn still has to play Alabama. I think the Auburn like basketball team tweeted a video of them like celebrating when they lost on the buzzer beater. I think it's dumb when you still have a game against the team you're fighting for the SEC title for to post celebrating them technically not being able to get it.
So did they clinch a share or the outright title?
They clinched the outright title.
Oh, well then what? They could lose to Alabama. It wouldn't matter.
But my point is like they could have beaten Alabama. They still play them. They could have beaten
beat
them
Alabama.
Yeah, but they play them again and they could have beat them again for the outright title. That's when you celebrate. I think going out of your way to post a video of the players getting all hyped that they won it when they still would have to play the team that was the best challenger to get it and could have beat them for it on their home floor. I think it was premature and lame. That's my opinion.
I don't know, Jack. It would be one thing if Auburn was sitting here at like 11-3 and like it was just a kind of a down year in the SEC, but they are 13-1. Like it's not like they didn't earn it. Like they went out and pretty much left no doubt.
I'm not saying they didn't earn it. Like I think they have a right to celebrate. But if they didn't have to play Alabama again, I would have got it. But it's the fact that you knew like regardless of what happened in that Alabama Tennessee game, you were going to have a chance to play them and beat them for the SEC title. That's my point.
I don't know, Jack. I'm not trying to be a troll. or like antagonize you here because I know your past feelings for Auburn, but
I'm not even being an Auburn hater. I would have, like I said, I would have got it if they didn't have to play Alabama. It's the same. Think about it like this.
But that game against Alabama doesn't mean anything for them now. They're gonna be a 1 seed. They're gonna be the 1 seed in the SEC tournament. Like I don't think it means that much. Obviously, you don't want to go out and lose, but if you lose, whatever, you can fall back on the fact that you won the game when it counted.
Okay,
and you did it at their house.
If Missouri and Kentucky were going for the SEC title, and Missouri won to clinch at least a share of it, and you watched Kentucky lose on a buzzer beater, and Missouri Athletics posted a video of Mark Mitchell and Tamar Bates getting hyped that Kentucky lost and Mizzou won the title by themselves, knowing they still would have played Kentucky.
Jack, you're not going to like my answer. I would be totally fine with it. I would not care if they lost to Kentucky. I wouldn't. That's kind of how I feel about it.
I think it's dumb when you still have that team. You still had all that in your hands.
What does it mean? What does the game mean?
The game doesn't. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The game doesn't mean anything now. But I guess that's what you're celebrating. Is just that game doesn't matter. I guess.
Yeah, you earned the right to have that game be meaningless. You went out.
It seems like you're celebrating because you would have been maybe worried, like, oh, we could have lost the outright league if we had to play them. Now we don't have to worry about it. It's like, oh, yippee.
Yeah,
I would have been as a competitor. I would have been like, nah, bring them on. Let's have
these
that
guys
game
are
be
still
the
going to go
high
out
stakes.
there and want to win that game, but it's like a celebration basically of you handling your business as much as anything else. They went out, they went 13-1 in the best league in the country, and now they get to kind of enjoy a less stressful week because they kind of earned it. I don't think it's a big deal personally. I really don't think it's a big. I don't think it's dumb, honestly. I get it. They won the SEC. Why wouldn't you post it?
I think it's lame when you still were going to play them. I think if they wouldn't have had,
I don't feel the same way.
That's fine. We can agree to disagree. That's fine. I do want my past bitterness toward Auburn is not impactful here. It could have been Florida that did this, and I would have felt the same way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think because that game no longer means anything because you went out and handled your business, I think that is fine to celebrate. Personally.
Yeah. Except they were doing Go Vols chants and like cheering for Tennessee, a team you're
I don't like. Okay, yeah, that part I don't like. Another SEC
well, that's what they were doing. That's what the players were doing in the video. They were doing like they were singing Rocky Top and getting all hyped for Tennessee.
Right? Yeah, I wouldn't. I would just be happy the team lost, not that another team won. Like there's not a team in the SEC that I would be like, yay, thank you. Like I would just be like, oh, thank God the other one lost. More than anything else.
I don't think I think they did it over the top, especially when they still would have had.
Maybe I haven't seen the video, but if a straight up just celebration that you now have the conference clinched because another team like just landed the final blow for you, I don't mind that.
Oh, sure, that's fine. I think they went too over the top with the.
I haven't seen the video, so maybe you're right.
I think they were rooting for Tennessee, and I'm like, you still have to play Alabama, like. You were going to have to play them regardless if they won or lost.
That part does not matter to me, though. That part doesn't matter.
I think it does. I think
won
that's
the conference.
You could have won the conference beating the piss out of your rival on your home floor too. Like they
beat Alabama already is the thing.
But it wasn't like a thing where like if Alabama had beaten Tennessee, they would have won the conference, and because they lost, Auburn won the conference.
No,
like,
but
you were
then
still going to
Auburn
play
would have
Alabama.
no reason to celebrate. Auburn wouldn't have celebrated then. That's like they celebrated because they won the conference, not because Alabama lost. That's how I would interpret that, just based on
I didn't interpret it like that. I thought it was stupid. All right, we'll agree to disagree. That's Kenny's quick hit, by the way. Kenny's not even here.
Wow, way to go, Kenny. Reaping, depositing the seeds of I don't know the term. Reaping the seeds of discontent or something like that.
There you go. You got there. What's yours, Payton?
Tiger in the Wild. I don't know. My Tigers in the Wild are going to be Luther Burden, Armand Membu, and Theo Weiss. Pretty damn good days for these guys at the combines. Luther Burden who has kind of been slipping in mocks recently, ran a 4.42 in the 40-yard dash, which is a phenomenal time for what people were expecting out of him. He does have small hands. That was a thing that was brought up in the measurement. He did come in at 6 feet tall, which is good. But he does have small hands. But a few draft analysts, I know Matt Miller was one, pointed out he only has 2 drops in his time in college, so he doesn't really think it's a big deal. But Luther Burden was very obviously thrilled with his time. He got that 4.42 on his first attempt, did not run it a second time. Did pretty well in the gauntlet drills as well. So good day for him. But Armand Membu, man, he has been making himself some money this offseason by just being an absolute beast of a human being. This tweet, if you're watching on the YouTube, comes from NFL Plus. It goes, Missouri tackle Armand Membu reached a top speed of 20.28 miles per hour during his 40-yard dash. That's the fastest. That was the fastest top speed by an offensive tackle at the combine. Jared Wilson, the Georgia center, did run a faster 40, but he's a center. 4.91 is the fastest mark by an offensive lineman that is at least 6'4" and 330 pounds since 2003. Armand Membu was already like a bona fide top half of the draft player going into this. I kind of think he's probably going to be a top 10 pick just based off what people were saying. And Theo Weiss, he ran a sub 4.6. I think that's probably good for him. He ran a 4.59 40 for his size, just kind of what people were expecting. That's good for him. He's not a super great athlete or anything, just a good football player, I think. So hopefully just improve the odds he's drafted with that one.
Yeah, great to see all of them doing well. And I'll just go right into my Tiger in the Wild too, because mine's Brady Cook, who also did well in the NFL draft combine. This is from our good friend and NFL draft expert Jacob Infante. Between his fast 40 and throwing drills, Brady Cook has been a big winner from today's workouts. Payton, I'm forgetting off the top of my head, it was like a 4.6 for Brady, right? On his 40, he was pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think it may have been faster when the official time came out. I think he may have had a 4.59. But yeah, a lot of people liked what they saw from him in the throwing drills. He also, I'm gonna see if I can find the tweet quick. He was easily like the best athlete of the quarterbacks there, which I don't think is too big a surprise there for people.
There was a post about that.
But he had the best broad and vertical jump, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to find
that is what it was.
The tweet. Yeah, here we go. NFL combine QB vertical jumps. Brady Cook had a 37. Broad jump, he had a 37-inch, and broad jump was 10'8". So very good stuff from him from the combine in general.
Yeah, they all had really good combines, which you just love to see. That can do wonders. I mean, especially for a guy like Luther, that crazily has been slipping out of the first round in a couple mocks. Hopefully, that gets him kind of back in that mix, because I would love for him to be a first rounder, deliver on what was promised with him heading into the draft. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye out. Mizzou draft guys. We'll have to have Jacob Infante on, get his takes.
Unfortunately, yes.
Pre-draft. I won't elaborate on that comment. Headlines. Kenny, your headline this week. Kenny's headline reads this week: behind Rick Pitino's St. John's wins outright big title. Yes, folks, the former future Missouri head coach Rick Pitino, as first reported by the Unwritten Rule, has won a conference title. Won the Big East with St. John's for the first time in 5 ever. 1985 was the last time that St. John's
85, man,
lifted the Big East crown, or a conference title at least. Yeah, big stuff for Rick Pitino. They're going to be a really scary team in the NCAA tournament. I'm really excited for them. I certainly will pick one of my brackets of them to win it all. That would be quite the story with Rick Pitino at, what is he, 71, 72?
Oh, man, is he older than that now? I honestly don't know.
I'm going to Google it as I talk. But yeah, insane story, Payton.
Yeah, 72. So you were right. Yeah, look, man, I know how people feel about Rick Pitino. Something about Rick Pitino having this renaissance out in the Big East is so cool to me, especially at a school like St. John's, like a straight up New York school. Like, that is cool. Rick Pitino, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. I know how everyone feels about him, but I think it's super cool. It's like a big part of my childhood, seeing Rick Pitino kind of just crank out these quality teams like this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's never won a NCAA title before, so he's it's gonna this would be pretty cool if he could get one done for the first time. Yeah. Congrats to Rick Pitino. Congrats to St. John's. I'm excited to watch them in the tournament. Your headline, Payton?
Kind of a two-parter, and neither are really headlines. It's just some bracket talk.
Yeah, Payton just kind of throws out the format of all the quick hits.
Yeah,
and just does his own thing.
Bracketology with Joe Lenardi is the headline here, and it's not even his actual bracket. It's kind of just the daily notes he gives. After yesterday, he does still list Missouri as a 5 seed and a high 5 seed. They're currently the second team on the 5 line. They are behind Clemson. And then you get to that 4 line with A&M as the last 4 seed, Arizona, Purdue, and Kentucky. So, look, if Missouri goes 2-0, they win a game in the SEC tournament, odds probably favor them climbing up to that 4 line. I think a 6 is out of the picture. Michigan did get totally demolished today.
Yep.
So we'll see there. Wisconsin also did lose, but they were the highest 3 seed. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. I know A&M, I think, still has to play Auburn, so that would really help. And
Mizzou has to play Kentucky. Potential big head-to-head.
That's true. That would probably be a swap, just a straight swap if Missouri wins that one. Switch over to Jerry Palm's bracketology. His is just bracketology. He has Missouri as a 4 seed out in the Midwest. It is one of the lower 4 seeds because they're out in Seattle. He has Missouri playing Lipscomb, 13 seed, with the winner going on to play Oregon or UC San Diego, neither of which are very fun. Getting to play 5 seed Oregon in Seattle sure does not feel like the protected seed we want.
That would be brutal. I mean, UC San Diego probably travel up well for that game. And UC San Diego is like probably the best mid-major with the best case to just get an at-large bid too.
Yeah, no,
so
UC
really
San Diego
good.
Absolutely. I don't even think they should be a 5 or a 12. I think they are legitimately a team that should be an 11 over one of these teams like Arkansas or
Baylor.
No, not Baylor. I don't feel that way. But like Georgia, if he has Oklahoma in, I think they should be over Oklahoma. I don't remember if he has Oklahoma in it. I don't feel like looking at all. Oh, he does at an 11. But yeah, neither one of those would be a fun matchup for Missouri in the second round. I would not. I can't lie.
No, not at all. That would be scary. Lipscomb's kind of scary in the first round too. I hate to put that in the world, but they're a good team. We'll see. We'll see how it goes for Mizzou in the brackets. Still some games. That Kentucky game is going to end up being really big for them. And speaking of that, I have some news as we look ahead to Kentucky. My headline of the week reads, Kentucky's Jackson Robinson to have wrist surgery, missed rest of the season. This is not I'm just kind of purely, giving this to the people if they haven't seen this. That is a bummer. We don't root for injuries here, but Jackson Robinson is a very good player for Kentucky. He's their second leading scorer. He has missed some time this season. They've had to make do without him for a bit now. But he is out for the rest of the year, which means he will be out against Missouri. He averages 13 points a game and shoots 37% from 3. Kentucky, very good offensive team, but yeah, they will be without him, which is a bummer for Kentucky. I've really liked what they've done with Mark Pope in year one, Mizzou game aside. And he's a good player, but yeah, they will not have him for the Mizzou game.
Yeah, that's a big loss for them. I mean, Robinson was one of the guys that followed Pope from BYU over. Look, it does help Missouri out a bit. There's kind of no way around that, but certainly not the way you'd want to see Missouri go out and kind of get an advantage over Kentucky. But that is pretty significant for them. He's, I think, their primary point guard when he plays, right?
Yeah, it's him and Owe and Butler, and they do have, but they did get Lamont Butler back.
Butler is back, yeah.
They've been without Lamont Butler, who
many will remember Lamont Butler for that San Diego State shot against FAU.
Yep, he did make that. And then Otego Oweh is their leading scorer. He's really good too.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the show. Great show. Thank you again to Mari for coming
Not so
on.
fast, Jack Knowlton. This one comes from our favorite TV series, the Today Show. Guys, or Jack, how do trees get on the internet?
I don't know how do trees get on the internet.
They log in, Jack.
Oh, good one. Good one. Al was in his bag there. All right. Thank you again to Mari for coming on. Let's see how Mizzou responds against Oklahoma. Let's see how Payton is on this show if they lose, because that might be a dark day. He might not come on. We might not be able to get him to do another show ever again if they lose to Oklahoma. All right. Hope you enjoyed the Unwritten Rule packed show. It was a good one. Really enjoyed the women's basketball coach convo. And yeah, we'll be back recapping the Oklahoma game on Friday for you guys. Payton's not going to solo screen me like Kenny did. Bad producer.
Oh,
Payton.
right. That is a thing he does, doesn't he?
It is the thing he started doing. There we go. I've been solo screening.
I remember to do it to Kenny the other day, too.
Oh, well, it just shows you care more.
All right, you're soloed. End the show.
You shows you care more about Kenny than me. All right, bye.